When the chips are down and democracy's back is up against the wall, two radio veterans step up to the microphone to right the wrongs, standing for truth, justice, and just because. Hey, are they ready to go yet? It's John and Gordy on 92.7 WMDX.
Broadcasting from the top of the pile of books that my microphone is sitting on, this is John and Gordy in the morning on WMDX.
Good morning.
Now, if we had just a few more books, we could look a little bit more professional, I think.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'll bring some of my Diary of a Wimpy Kid books. All right, how about that?
All right. Maybe I could also bring in some of my Berenstain Bear books that I used to read to the kids.
I used to have the World Book Encyclopedias. You know, they had 20 volumes or so.
Yeah.
And so you get, and they had different. They were different thicknesses. You know, depending on what part of the alphabet it was.
Yeah. Well,
so that way, you know, you have a choice.
And it looks like we're knowledgeable, like we're going through those books.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really nice.
You got some very important. We should have a book review club, John and Gordy's book review. What books are you using today?
So you can see the.
I can see Bill.
You can see the titles. I can't.
Yeah, The President is Missing is one of the titles. That's a Bill Clinton, James Patterson book.
Yes.
You know, they've got a franchise now.
Yeah.
They've got, I think, 3 books out. One of them is called Unanswered Questions with Ray McGinnis. I don't know anything about that. And the one that I brought in, you're using today, Encyclopedia of Word and Phrase Origins.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. That's a big,
Oh,
yeah. That really helps out a lot.
Got
a lot of pages.
Stimulating read.
I'm going with the classics here.
You are, yeah.
I got the Milton Berle Private Joke File, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Really old jokes from like the 30s and 40s.
They would go over
vaudeville.
well.
Oh,
Yes.
my God. They're so awful. So awful. But Dom, you know, he's got a boom stand.
He
in there.
actually has
That's very
a mic
nice.
boom stand.
I feel very bougie. I feel bad for you guys.
Yeah.
I have a full setup here, and you guys have half a setup.
But I understand they're on the way. You know, so
Wait a minute,
you
you've
know,
been
the rest of
saying that
equipment-
for the last 2 months.
Well, that's what I understand. I don't know. It could be wrong.
So we got the fancy new table and
Yeah.
all the drilled
Yeah, it's
holes in the
beautiful.
table. Everything looks like it's all ready to go.
Everything is, you know, it's all good. You know, it's all good.
So, yeah, maybe somewhere in a harbor someplace
Well, that's the
off
thing.
off the coast of California, they have a huge container filled with boom stands.
It's the supply chain issue. We've had it before.
That's it.
You
That's
know?
it right there.
Just for our show.
I'm sure they're sitting in a crate somewhere, but not anywhere near here.
No.
Apparently. 9 minutes past the hour. It's a cloudy start this morning and still feeling kind of muggy out there, don't you think?
Well, I think so. Yeah. Yep.
And let's see. Currently, the WMDX thermometer right outside our window here on State Street says 64 degrees.
Well,
that's what the
fantastic.
mercury.
Yeah, that's really nice.
What is your WMDX
Windows-
Samsung watch? Tell
Windows
us?
pretty accurate usually.
It is.
My watch
high.
says 63 degrees today
What do you got for
currently,
high?
but a high of 84
84
degrees.
Okay.
84.
Well, let's see. What should we use today? How about the bar dice?
I like it.
Okay, let's throw the bar dice there, Dom, and see what we can come up with. Okay, just slam it down. Okay. Well, one of them's an 8, one of them's a 0. How do you get a 0 on a piece of die?
Well, we
I
got
don't
the
know how that
special
works.
dice.
8. So 80. But yours is saying 84.
Yeah.
So that's quite a
That's quite the
disparity.
difference right there, but I'm usually right. So,
Yeah.
you know, I hate to say it, but Samsung is right on the money.
So it's cloudy this morning, but I do expect we're going to see a lot of sunshine through the day. It's going to be warm and getting even warmer the next few days.
Yeah.
Really, the heat is really going to hit us Friday, Saturday, Sunday in the 90s and feeling like it's 100. So we'll check in with Brittany Merlot a little bit later on. And, of course, in about 25 minutes, we'll talk to Tim Slekar from Busted Pencils.
We got a whole bunch of questions.
We do. Yeah, we got a lot of questions.
Yeah, a great podcast on Wednesday dropped, and there's a lot of good topics in that. I want to get a little bit deeper into the weeds with Tim about some of the issues that they're talking about. So we'll certainly get into that. And also, I hope if we have time to talk about calm corners in your classrooms. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So I'll give you a little tip. They're trying to put in special lighting, sound, a quiet place where a person can go to chill out in the classroom if they're having difficulty in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what that would be, but anyway, they're. And the problem I have with it, it doesn't say anything about walls. It doesn't say anything about a different room. So how do you have special lighting in a corner of the classroom?
I don't know.
See, anyway, I don't
know how that works.
We'll see how that works.
We're also going to welcome in Jim Santelle in our 7 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
Our attorney at law will straighten us out on whatever's going on legally.
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on legally, and some of those decisions are really questionable. I mean, the banning or allowing a on transgender care for children is just absolutely outrageous.
Big decision that came down on
and it was a partisan vote on the Supreme Court, which it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
And now they're making medical decisions.
Yeah.
These are the Republicans that don't want bureaucrats getting in the way of the freedom that people have to make their own decisions. So now they're right in the middle of this thing.
Yes.
And all the way through the transgender issue is mentioned the word sex all the way through, and then their decision says this has nothing to do with sex. Wow, transgender, nothing to do with sex. All right. Anyway, 6 of the conservative Supreme Court justices thought that was true. I don't know.
Well, we'll talk to Jim Santelle and find out his take on all of that in our 7 o'clock hour. So it's 13 minutes past the hour. Let's check out the National Day. Well, we don't do the National Day calendar anymore.
It's so boring.
If we
every year, the same day comes up and the same things in the calendar come up. So we've decided to kind of skip this feature completely, except, we have a curiosity.
Except when there's something really important on it, right?
Yeah.
Juneteenth. That is a big one. The story of Juneteenth.
Very controversial now.
Yeah. Juneteenth, the background on that is it began in Texas when that Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston on June 19th in 1865 with the announcement, and they didn't know this for a long time, but slavery had ended. I mean, the word took a long time to get to Galveston, Texas. So they picked this day to, talk about Juneteenth and commemorating the end of slavery in the U.S.
We kind of touched on that, I think, yesterday or the day before, where the funding for Juneteenth is depleting. Yeah, they're cutting it because DEI is a very bad thing. In fact, it's illegal according to Trump. I don't know. He can make up laws now.
Well, if we were going to check out the National Day calendar, this would be one that you'd really like. It's National Watch Day, because I know you're in love with your Samsung watch.
Smart watches, that's what they're called.
Yeah.
It's not a regular watch. You like the regular watches. I
like regular watches.
I don't know why it doesn't do much. It just sits there on your wrist with the time.
But it's not big and clunky like the thing that your computer that you're wearing on your forearm.
Well, you have to have a computer on your wrist nowadays, don't you?
No.
Pretty soon they're going to be in your glasses.
You don't need that either.
It gives the dew point and everything, too. So it's like...
What is the dew point?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't ask about the dew point. What is that?
I don't know.
Well, you got it right on your forearm now. Come on.
It takes a while to go a little bit deeper. I got to get into the app.
All right. In the meantime, it's World Sauntering Day. Who doesn't love a good saunter?
We love
once in a
sauntering. Did we ever cover that before? I don't remember having World Sauntering Day.
I don't know what the difference is between a slow walk, and a stroll and a saunter. I'm not sure which is the slowest or which is the quickest.
Yeah, you'd wonder maybe it's a horse thing, horse fair
sauntering,
thing, right?
Yeah.
Sauntering.
It's also National Garfield the Cat Day. I know you're a big fan of Garfield the Cat, the cartoon.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
I thought you were.
The dew point is 62 degrees.
Well, anytime it's above 60, it starts to get a little dicey.
And when you have the humidity at 100%.
Oh, my God, yeah.
And that's what it's at.
It's unbearable.
Right now.
Yeah, it is.
That's where it's at.
Man, okay.
The definition of saunter: walk in a slow, relaxed manner without hurry or effort. So there we go.
Okay, thank you.
The more you know.
The more you know. That's right.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, what do we have in the history book there, Dom?
History books. Let's check it out.
Well, I mean, birthdays. Anything else you got for history, birthday?
All right. So in 1960, the first NASCAR race is actually held at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
1960.
I don't watch a whole lot of NASCAR, so it's not super important to me, but I know a bunch of other people really love NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1951, the invention of Velcro. So
1951?
1951.
They held off using that for quite a long time.
They didn't know what to do with it. They're like, what is this good for?
We struggled with buttons for years.
Yes, we did.
All right.
Okay, anything else?
Yes, and then on this day, James Gandolfini dies at age 51.
What year was that? Was just 2 or 3 years ago, right?
I think that was a long time ago. That was definitely more than 5 years ago, I would have to say.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, now he's going to look.
I'll double check on that.
Hang on.
Don't you have
What?
Hey Google on your
Hey, Google.
your phone?
Hey, Google.
We used to get answers that way, you know.
He died in 2013. Wow, you're right. He died. I didn't realize it was that long ago. 12 years ago.
Time flies. Time flies.
What's your doing?
Well, it heard me say, "Hey Google." So it's asking me what I want.
He died 12 years ago. I'm probably a bigger Sopranos fan. I never watched than I was even then.
Yeah.
I see a lot of clips on the phone now that pop up.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Anything else there, Dom?
We got 2 birthdays as well.
Forge ahead.
2 birthdays as well.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
All right.
1978, former NBA star Dirk Nowitzki was born on this day.
Who?
Dirk
Nowitzki.
Oh yeah, Dirk.
Nowitzki. Yep, from the Mavericks.
Yeah.
And then Ann Wilson, rock singer from the 1950s. Born in 1950.
She was born in 1950.
She was in the band Heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's still in the band Heart.
Yeah. They're still playing around, right?
They finally got, they had some differences.
They did.
Ann and Nancy, and they didn't talk to each other for a few years, and now they're back on tour again.
Well, that's great.
And I believe Ann is in a wheelchair. I'm not certain about that.
Yeah.
I could have that wrong. Okay.
But they had some great songs. You know, a lot of those older groups played acoustic sets.
Yeah.
And rock sets. And that's what I liked about the old groups. They could do both. Nowadays, it's just kind of, either hard rock or, you're a folk singer.
Right.
But they don't combine the two. Remember, 10 Years After did acoustic things.
Yeah.
Deep Purple did a few.
Yeah. Ah, those were the days.
Slade.
Slade? Slade?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you remember Slade?
I just remember the name Slade. I don't remember anything about the band.
It was a big group in England.
Okay.
They had a few songs here in the U.S., but...
All right. 19 minutes past the hour. We're just getting started on a Thursday morning. We'll be back with more of John and Gordy in just a few moments.
All right. WNDX 92.7. John and Gordy in the morning.
It's a bit cloudy out there. Yeah. What are we listening to?
This is the Illinois Free Press.
No, Illinois Speed Press.
Speed Press, is it?
Speed, isn't it?
Yeah, Speed Press.
Illinois Speed Press, correct?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
With Paul Cotton on
Yeah,
guitar.
you see, you're kind of a fan of that.
I saw
group.
them one time.
Yeah.
I can't remember where, somewhere in around Chicago area, but yeah, they were great. They were great.
And that song is called Free Ride.
Yeah, I would admit, I was trying to find a Heart song, but I got signed out of YouTube, so I got to sign back. Don't know how.
What?
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, Illinois Speed Press. They were really, really good.
Yeah.
And then Paul Cotton left the band to join Poco after one of their guys left.
That's
Jim
probably
Messina
the reason
left.
why we never heard back from them.
they were
Because that
real-
song was so good. It just
I know.
rocked, man. And
great.
yeah.
This portion of John and Gordy in the morning brought to you by Verlo Mattress. You can wake up and sleep better on a Verlo mattress. A lot has changed since 1958. Some things have remained constant, though, through Verlo's history. They're still direct to consumer. They still provide superior products at unbeatable prices, and they still have 2 Madison locations, East Side and West Side. Go to Verlo.com for more information and check out their lifetime comfort guarantee. Okay.
I saw this headline. I thought it was really interesting.
What's that?
9 food brands that won't survive RFK Jr.'s ban on colorants.
Really?
Yes.
Now, I heard about this coloring ban.
As much as we
food
think
colors.
he's a complete idiot, and he is,
Yes.
he's right about the food coloring situation. The FDA, for some reason, has not banned all these food colorings that are banned in Europe, and they know best.
Yeah.
And the line in this story goes, we never realized that we're eating petroleum-based chemicals banned in much of Europe. So that's where the food coloring comes from. And
Petroleum-based.
Yes, and some of the products that might have a problem with this is Hostess Cupcakes.
Oh, no.
That uses dark chocolate and, of course, strawberry colorings. That is Red 40. There's 2 Red 40s. Blue Lake 2 and Blue 1 Lake and Yellow 5. Boy, I'm glad we're getting rid of them
These
because
food
those are really
coloring.
bad food colorings. And then, Mars has a problem also with all of these colorings. So
Really?
they're going to have a problem with some of their candies.
Like
they
what?
have a slogan, taste the rainbow. Well, that ain't going to happen anymore. And
What about M&Ms?
yeah,
I mean, are
the
M&Ms involved?
Yeah, big thing. Yeah, the
What?
M&Ms are going to be changed. They're going to have to change the Skittles, M&Ms, the
no.
coloring in that. They're going to use fruits and vegetable extracts, which is just a little bit more expensive. And those are the extracts for coloring in Europe and in other countries that have banned all these petroleum-based colorings.
Will
God.
we notice a difference in the colors, do you think? I mean,
That's why they don't use it. Well, it's a little more expensive to use, but also they're not sure how the colorings stand up in their baking and cooking and processing
and
process.
sitting on the shelves of convenience stores for
a long
2 or 3
time.
years.
Host is going to have a problem with that. I raised my kids on Twinkies because I knew what it did to me. I became tall, strong, manly.
Sure. God.
Wow,
that's big news.
Yeah, it's really wild. They have special colorings. They're worried about some of these products like runts. I don't even know what a runt is.
Runts. Do you know that, Dom? Do you know what a runt
I have no clue what a runt
candy
is.
It's a candy, right?
It is a candy.
Okay.
Yeah, of some sort. They're worried about Reese's Puffs. These are cereals now. Cinnamon Toasted Crunch, Honey Nut Cheerios, Cookie Crisps, and, of course, Trix.
Oh, tricks are for kids.
I know. And so are those food colorings. Wow. My kids stopped eating. We used to buy Trix.
Yeah.
And we used to buy the off brands, which sometimes tasted even better.
Mm-hmm.
But they stopped eating it. And the containers stayed in the cabinet. And I said, this is it. We're not eating food colorings anymore. And they had already made up that decision. They never told me. So we had to throw them out. But
that's sad.
It's sad because, you have all those brilliant colors.
Right.
The deceiving part about, Trix and all those other Fruit Loops is that they had the same flavor. All the colors tasted the same. There weren't different flavors mixed in the cereal.
Wow.
Yeah. So red, like cherry, wasn't cherry at all. It was just the same flavoring of the lemon.
No difference
and
at
orange. All. Yeah. It's just ridiculous, right? And I always thought there was a difference. I thought, wow, the combination of flavors. What a great cereal.
Yeah,
what do you got, Tom?
Yeah, I saw Runts. Runts is it's like the fruit candy. It's in like that little box. They look exactly like fruit, but just in candy form.
Okay.
Well, of course, that's Runts. What we want.
Strawberry, apple, banana, grape. That's what they got. So.
Okay. Well, any of this food coloring going to affect like the fruit rolls, those the roll-ups or whatever they're called?
I think that will have an effect.
Those have food coloring, I imagine.
So do sodas.
Sodas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, of course, different sodas have different colorings and stuff like that. And some of the cheaper brands, like they are really bright. You can see them across
like neon
across the store,
glowing.
That's right.
Yeah, glow going to go away.
So those might be a problem.
Okay. Well, we'll have to watch our store shelves and see how the colors change.
Well, Marie Callender has these frozen pies, and they're really good. A lot of those pies are exceptional.
Yes.
But now they're having a problem because their bottom line is very tight already because they do have to have a competitive price out there. But these food colorings if they go with actual natural fruits and vegetable colorings, then it's going to raise the price up by 2 or 3 cents, and they don't want to do that.
Prices are already going up. Okay. Oh,
see,
well, thanks for bringing us all down. It's 29 minutes past the hour. Pam Yankee, the fabulous farm babe, has the Midwest Agricultural Farm Report. And then we'll be back with Tim Slekar from Busted Pencils, talking education. Next.
All right.
How's it going, Tim?
Good morning. Good morning.
There
Good.
he is.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Morning, Tim.
It is.
All right. I really liked your podcast from Wednesday. You touched on a whole bunch of stuff. I thought, if we dug a little bit deeper into some of those issues, I think they were pretty cool about college. And the shop classes now taking over, or the special training that's going on in those older shop classes that have been high-teched, basically.
Yeah.
We talked about that a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but I thought this is kind of an interesting thing because now, with the way things are changing, these kids coming out of school, they're hearing all the rumors about being replaced by robots. And AI, and you got to wonder what kind of jobs are going to be available to them. Which are the ones they're going to start getting trained for? That's my question to you on all of this. When I was listening to it, I was thinking, well, yeah, aren't these kids affected by hearing that their jobs just aren't going to be out there? Right?
Yeah. No, I
talk about that. Yeah.
So I want to get into that. I want to also thanks for mentioning the DEI thing with Linda McMahon on your show. That was kind of cool. I enjoyed that. Thank you. But, I always had a problem with that. There was one question I had before even DEI even came up in any of this stuff. And my question to you on this will be, don't teachers normally tend to be more on the liberal side, and that's why they go into teaching? Because they're saying, oh well, the predominant philosophy or the political persuasion of teachers is liberal, and I've always thought, well, yeah, because they want to help people. They're not psychopaths. So
well, some of them are psychopaths.
Yeah,
not most.
All of them are psychopaths that are conservative. But anyway, So those are the couple of things I want to touch on, and also I don't know if you heard about these calm corners that are they're proposing putting these in classrooms now.
Elementary school, or
It doesn't.
mainly, or
the article didn't say it, but whole
calm. Go to the calm corner.
Yeah, the calm corner.
Is this sponsored by Calm the app?
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you have that cut on AI that we played yesterday?
I do.
Just have that standing by in case we go into the AI weeds.
Gotcha.
Again.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah?
Right.
Yeah. When you're talking about the job thing, actually, too, I think the New York Times actually had a piece of trying to imagine the jobs that AI is going to create.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was in the New York Times as a piece. I didn't read it, but they're trying to say, okay, these are the jobs. Everybody's talking about the jobs that are going away, but here are the new jobs that are going to be created because of AI. I didn't, could be something to look at too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that would be nice to have that list.
I'm
panicking for my kids.
Well, yeah, and I'm looking for that the job that says when the utopia that comes, the job of sitting around and watching AI take care of everything.
Yeah.
All
right, I'm gonna turn you guys off. We're almost live.
Okay.
Mother, there's too many of you crying.
WMDX 92.7 at John and Gordy in the morning, and it's a kind of a muggy, high humidity, high dew point morning for you.
Yes, it is.
And we're overlooking State Street. The leaf blower guys are not out this morning.
We haven't
for some
seen
reason.
them for days.
I know what happened. They were
I'm
out.
not sure.
They went out and they blew leaves during the rainstorm that we had.
Yes, it was fun to watch.
I don't know why, but
well, they want to keep their jobs. Guess.
But now they're not out there when they should be out there.
I don't know. It's 6:35. It is cloudy. We'll see a lot of sunshine though, and highs in the low 80s. Right now, it's 64 degrees.
Maybe the city hires as supervisors.
You think so?
Make sure those guys are doing their job out there.
Sure. This portion of the show brought to you by Madison Hearing Aid Center. Go to their excellent website, MadisonHearingAidCenter.com. They offer passion over profit, fast and flexible appointments, helping people change their lives. Their number one goal isn't just selling hearing aids, it's improving the quality of life through better hearing. Talk to Jim or Sarah at Madison Hearing Aid Center, 4706 Cottage Grove Road in Madison. Once again, their website, MadisonHearingAidCenter.com.
All right, let's go to our Thursday morning guest, Tim Slekar, Dr. Tim Slekar from Busted Pencils. And they have podcasts that you can listen to, and I'm going to refer to the latest podcast from Wednesday, which I thought was very interesting, about ditching college for tech classes in the schools nowadays. You found this article in USA Today. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for the weather update. Here,
What's it like in Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
I'm going to say here in Pennsylvania right now, modes of transportation are canoes.
Wow, raining.
Lots of rain.
Wow.
But no, yeah. Think about, I saw this article because it's interesting to think that more and more students are literally saying, you know what, college, no, not for me. There are opportunities in particularly around, getting training and going out and going to work. The other part of the article, though, is that the survey of the parents going, I don't want, wait a minute. You're supposed to go to college, right? And I think that what's really happening there, though, too, is that students might actually have a little bit more of a take on this, of saying, but why would I go to college when it doesn't seem like, graduating from college gives me anything other than debt and no job opportunities? And right now, even without a trade school, just coming out of high school, taking a job that has an apprentice type of a program like that, they can start earning money and going forward in that direction. And so the reason I brought this to the Busted Pencils was to say, well, what would that mean currently in a higher education landscape where we already know that enrollments are declining? And there is a kind of a cultural anti kind of like, well, don't go there because, all they do is teach you to, overthrow the government and
that's true. That's what they're thinking. And the more educated, of course, the more democratic you are.
Well, and install some form of a Marxist authoritarian.
Oh yes.
And I wonder, though, too, when I look at this and say, I don't know that the kids, let's say the kids, I think that they might be onto something, and the parents, though, are still kind of trapped in this sense of going, but we always imagined that and if we're really talking about first generation college students here, we really imagined that you were going to go to college. And so the parents are up against this vision of what they saw college as, meaning this pathway to some form of a middle class, job type of security, when the reality is that maybe that is more of a myth than it is an actual truth. And maybe the students in high school have more of a grasp on thinking, what, I think a future is for me right now is to get a good job, to get some training. And one of the things that I kind of highlighted in this article was one of the students really pointed out and saying, that doesn't mean that I've ruled out college. It just means that I'm thinking about it for now as something that, I can go out, I can make some money, I can get a trade, and then I can go back to college.
Right.
And that is a unique, potentially cultural shift to think about going, okay, what if college isn't immediately right after you graduate high school? And, Johnny in that episode was talking about saying that, he always did think that, taking a year off before you go to college really does kind of give a sense of, when you actually sign up to go into college, then after a year break or going out and doing something, you have more of a sense of going, why you came to college. So
yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a time when we thought that if you took a year off or two, you're not going to go back.
Right.
That was the thinking back then.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what your parents thought too. It's
yeah.
like, well, if you take a year off, you're not going
back.
You're not going to go back.
Yeah.
But, you brought this up. You brought this up in your podcast, and I looked up the who goes back, and according to the statistics from last year, I believe, 39 million went back to college. 24% of those who were at college, undergrads, were adult. Okay, and the pathway, of course, is doing that, going back to college. Now, I'm wondering how many of these had gone to college for a year, dropped out, didn't think it was useful, then went on to the workplace, but then decided to go back to college. So they had a year or two of college already, and they just went back.
No,
to finish their.
In fact,
undergrad.
that population, we refer to them as some college.
Yes, that's right. Something about it.
You know, no, and it's a huge population of people that have, you know, gone and done a year, did a year and a half. It didn't work out. They didn't like it, and now they're out in a job. And you know, some of them are saying, "Oh, geez, I should go back." But actually, there's a huge population of some college that legitimately had significant problems, and right now institutions are saying, how do we get them to come back? What is it? And this is where I think there's a real opportunity for higher education and colleges to point out and say, you know what, we have, and in fact, let's design pathways for this population that is a little bit different than a traditional 4-year going, you know, living in the dorms, waking up on Monday morning and going, I'm not going to class, and realize that this population, maybe if we change the way we do college, we could get them to come back and create pathways. So there's a whole lot of opportunities here for higher education, particularly to kind of say, okay, we have a traditional track. We know we want those students, but what about all of these other people? Because if higher education is truly beneficial, then how we allow people to access it and how we allow them to progress through it, we might need to change those types of modalities to fit somebody who maybe is working, quote, full time and still wants to go to college. And so how do we, allow or encourage them to have the ability to come back to college?
Talking to Dr. Tim Slekar from Busted Pencils. Tim, we've got a text here from Matt in Middleton. He says he has a little different take on this.
Yeah,
he's talking about his body here.
Yeah.
The thing about college is that it can lead to a career that doesn't destroy your body. The trades are hard on your body, and it's unlikely you can do it for 30 years as opposed to a thinking career. That's he says that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
You know, that's because he's talking about jobs like welders or plumbers, or
Right.
that does take a toll. I guess that comes into consideration when thinking about what you're going to do with your life.
It actually does. In fact, I was down at the carpenters training facility in Pittsburgh yesterday, actually talking to that group who is trying to, imagine college as a pathway. And one of the issues is that, you know what, this is hard work. It's hard on the body. And, if I had, in addition to my, carpenter's, let's call it a license, if I had maybe a bachelor's degree in construction management, that, maybe in 15 years, I can then kind of move into a direction where I'm not on my, hands and knees or lifting heavy things. And, it's a real issue. It was interesting because they were, particularly flooring installers who are truly on their hands and knees all day long. After 20 years, it might feel good to stand up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Definitely.
I have a nephew who's a master plumber, and has gone all the way up in the union and is a crew manager and goes all over the state doing plumbing. But he's I think he's about 45 or years or so old, and he can't wait to get retired. He's like, I'm looking forward to the day that I don't have to do this kind of work, and he's in charge of it. And so he does do some hands-on, of course, but he says my body is worn out.
That gets into the side issue of when is the best time for retirement. The Republicans want to extend it. They don't want you to retire too early, and they want to make it even later in life that you can retire, and that's kind of foolish because of all these laborious jobs that are destroying your body, right?
Well, yeah, but understand that where they're coming from is that they need people in their 80s to come in and fix their toilets.
Well, I was waiting for something profound, and we got it from you on that. Okay, now I want to bring this up too because we have a Gen Zer as our producer, Dom. And I wonder, what do you think on this, Dom? Do you guys debate whether, there's a field that you can get into, but it may not be there for long because AI might replace it or robotics might replace it. What's your feeling on that?
I actually just talked about this with my roommate, who's about the same age as me.
Yeah.
And he
22.
22, correct. Yep, 22, and he is very afraid of where AI might go with this whole issue about gaining jobs, going into the real world. I just started going into the real world a couple months ago, and my roommate was really nervous. He does sort of lab testing, and already robots are kind of going into the forefront there, and kind of taking over his job essentially. And I know it's going to be much more in about 5 to 10 years, or that's what we think. That's what we think.
So that may be a discouragement to go into anything.
Correct.
And that's why they may be holding themselves up and not going on to college at that point, right, Tim?
Yeah, it's a real fear. I think the idea of potentially being replaced by robots isn't necessarily. I mean, if we're talking about the manufacturing process, that's going to continue to be an issue. But I see Dom. Well, I have some thoughts about that I think might give Dom a little bit more of a sense of ease.
All right.
Okay.
We'll come back.
All right. We'll be back with Dr. Tim Slekar from Busted Pencils on John and Gordy in the Morning in just a moment.
It is interesting now that I'm here in this new position, which is to do this, but so many of the trades, actually the job that I'm working on, so being down at the carpenter's training facility, they are very much in favor of creating college pathways for them to, in addition to their carpenter's skill set, to actually put in their back pocket to a bachelor's degree. And the guy we were talking to yesterday, he said, we have a significant part of our membership that wants to learn about the pathway through for a master's degree. So,
really?
So it's like, and I on Monday, I have an appointment with the head of the Boilermakers because they're also interested in trying to figure out how their members can get a college pathway also.
Wow.
So
this sounds like a really cool occupation that you've gotten yourself into.
I'm loving this.
This is future.
What is your job title,
thinking.
actually?
I am the Associate Provost of Academic Innovation.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
That sounds really important.
Yeah,
Got new business cards.
A little condescending there, Gordy.
Well, I don't know.
No, I mean, the long title, I'm the Associate Provost of Academic Innovation and Dean of Graduate and Continuing Education.
Okay.
So.
All right, now let's get into the robotic thing. Is that what you're going to talk about, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I think,
all right.
And that little bit of AI. And
all right. Because I was thinking that somewhere along the way, some of this stuff, and I want to bring it up, is it might be faddish. And a lot of these individuals might be thinking, well, this is a fad now, the AI thing. But then, that might turn into something completely different in 4 or 5 years.
Well, see, and that's where I think that New York Times article about what are the jobs that will be created by AI.
I'm looking at that AI personality director.
Yeah, right.
drug compliance optimizer. The human evaluation specialist.
Oh God!
Wow,
that sounds scary.
Now, they can analyze us for being a good human or not. Yeah, I'm looking at the New York Times article about this,
and I didn't read it, so
it's a little hard. It's not broken down into topics. It just brings up AI trainer, an AI integration specialist. So I don't know.
All right, turn off mics.
somewhat sunny morning and humid. I think the haze out there is actually the humidity and dew points.
I think you could be right. Yes, we'll check in with Brittany Merlot in about a half hour, get her take on things. It is 6:52. We're back with Dr. Tim Slekar from Busted Pencils.
And we're talking about what Gen Z is thinking about doing because of AI and robotics. And you had something you want to add about robotics and AI.
Well, I think the concern that robotics are going to take your jobs is that in one way, I mean, they already are and they already have been, particularly if you're talking about in the manufacturing areas, right? And so I'm not sure if that is this idea of, truly like humanoid robots that are going to take over their jobs. I don't think we're at that point yet. What I would say to Gen Z, and which is, my daughter and my son, is that my best assumption and guess is looking at the AI world is that the way you guard against being, quote, replaced by AI is to you yourself get involved and understand AI, because again, I'm taking somebody else's quote, but AI isn't going to replace you. But Dom, if you understand and know how to use AI, you're going to replace people who don't know how to use it.
Like that, yeah.
And so it really is on all of us to really understand how to do it. But it is, as the AI world comes forward, we don't really know what is going to be, quote, replaced, and how it's going to affect. And so I really look at this and say, this is an opportunity for people to dig into AI. And particularly, I'm really following, and I really see this as a unique thing is that more artistically inclined liberal arts types of people are actually really, really great users of generative AI, because they can think creatively with it, where when you're more people are like, I don't want to get into tech, I don't want to get, actually users of this are actually better at it and can come up with much more creatives. So I think about this, David Bowie was, quoted back in the 60s and 70s when the synthesizer came out. It could absolutely replicate every instrument there was out there, and they're like, are you worried, David, about this replacing your musicians? And his thing was, actually, I don't find the synthesizer interesting because it can replicate. It's when they, as artists, started mixing it to make unique new sounds that he found this. And so there was an artistry into the tool that puts this way. And so I see the same thing with generative AI. What I'm training myself to be, though, is that I'm going to be an AI counselor, because I see that when AIs are counseling, lots of other people, that the AIs are going to have to get really tired, and they're going to need a human to actually coach them back from the brink, because of you got to think. I mean, these
You're
AI
really thinking ahead.
Because the AI is going to be, can you imagine all of the crazy people the AI is going to have to experience? And they're going to be like, what is going on? I'll be like, okay, check it out, AI. Here's the deal. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, AI isn't going to be able to understand a lot of humans.
Yeah. I mean, so we're going to have to be there to say, like, look, I know you've been working with my aunt, and I got to tell you, she's crazy.
Yeah. That's
great stuff.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. There could be a lot of business there.
I thought maybe a suggestion that Johnny came up with, and I hate to say that we're trying to reinvent the wheel here, because the EU has been doing this for many, many decades. They've been channeling people and creating pathways for them to get into an occupation right from high school.
Right.
But the thing here is that maybe if we just had K through college where people could go into college and test it out and see if they like it and stay there. And maybe if they don't like it, they could leave and then but go back in because it's free. It's paid for by the general public. Wouldn't that be just better that way?
That sounds like some form of communism, socialism,
revolutionary idea.
My God,
that's way too.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
giving humans the access to flourishing on somebody else's dime. What are you talking about?
I know.
No, I mean, yeah, I think that though too is to imagine that I think we do imagine education as these kind of segmented times that are really broken apart when really we need to be thinking about the, and this is somewhat of a generic term, but lifelong learning and realizing, and so therefore access to education at any point in your life is something that we as a society should be trying to figure out.
And that's something you're doing right now.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna. Yeah. So again, a visit to the Carpenters facility in Union yesterday. In fact, they were talking about this in a way that, they're interested in bachelor's degrees, they're interested in master's degrees, but they're trying to say this, and I totally get what they're saying is that, but couldn't it be that on the way to those degrees that they're getting certifications along the way that count towards the degree, and so that their members could say, you know what, after 15 credits of a certification, I'm good. This now gives me something, but if I want to come back, I can jump in and I don't lose anything. In fact, I'm always accumulating towards something else.
Yeah, well, that's great. All
Tim,
right,
we have to leave it there.
You.
Thanks for joining us, Dr. Tim Slekar. You can check out their podcasts that drop on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the show on the Civic Media Radio Network on Saturday.
1 hour show. It's great stuff.
Tim, good to talk to you. Talk to you next
All right,
time.
guys. See you next time.
Take care.
Back with more of John and Gordy. We've got Jim Santelle in our next hour and a whole lot more.
It's a beautiful morning.
We got a new act. It's phenomenal. It's sensational. It's terrific. It's even mediocre.
No, it's disgusting. It's a ploy.
What a ass.
You have a pretty fun show. I listen to it most of the time, you know. Keep up the good work.
God, I love you. Get the hell off the stage.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good.
Good morning, John and Gordy.
Good morning, John and Gordy.
Good morning, John and Gordy.
Thank you, AI. Good morning to you, too. 6 minutes past the hour. Yeah. Sunshine this morning in the Mad City. And
we were wondering where the leaf blower guys are out there.
Yeah, where
on
have
State
they been?
Street this morning. We overlooked the great, legendary State Street, and they're not there.
No.
And Robert out at McFarland said, hey, guys, it's a federal holiday. The leaf blower dudes won't be out there today.
Oh, okay. Well, that could be. I guess
it is.
so.
It's Juneteenth Day.
That's right. It is beautiful out there. Highs today in the low 80s, but it's going to feel muggy once again. This portion of the show brought to you by Verlo Mattress. You can wake up and sleep better on a Verlo mattress. A lot has changed since 1958. Some things remain constant, though. Throughout Verlo's history, they're still direct-to-consumer, providing superior products at unbeatable prices. Verlo Mattress, 2 Madison locations, east side and west side. Go to verlo.com.
You know, these abductions, immigration abductions and deportations, scaring the daylights out of Americans out there. I mean, this is going on all over in the blue cities, but it'll be in a neighborhood near you soon, I'm sure. But we can't identify these people. They all wear different clothing. In fact, it's almost like dress-up time. I understand that a few of these raids actually had people dressed up as military, but they're actually just ICE agents, which is also scary. And they don't need, or they aren't showing you any kind of reason why they're picking you up. Is there a warrant signed by somebody at ICE? Is there anything at all, any identifying way of knowing who they are?
Right.
And these are unmarked trucks that they just throw people into now.
It's scary about it. They don't know who, they can't identify them at all.
That's right.
They don't, I mean, it could be, you could feel like you're just being kidnapped, and in a sense you are.
Exactly. and what's happened, like the comptroller in New York City, he was just in the group. And the ICE agents are trying to get the immigrant who just appeared in immigration court, but they tried to grab him. And of course, the comptroller was part of the mix. Right. And suddenly they just arrested him too. And this is what's happening out in the streets. I have an example of that. This is 20-year-old Adrian Andrew Martinez. His family now is trying to understand what happened to him. Because he was kind of harassing the ICE agents. Yeah, you can, freedom of speech. You can go out there and you can tell them what you think. You don't touch them. You're not pushing them. You're just yelling at them, basically, and that shouldn't affect them. But it has affected them. And I want to play this television coverage of what happened to Adrian Andrew Martinez. Okay, let's listen to Cut 163.
A tense confrontation between Border Patrol agents and a 20-year-old man in Pico Rivera. Adrian Andrew Martinez was on a lunch break working at the nearby Walmart when video shows him standing up to agents who appeared infuriated. Backup arrives and armed agents swarm Adrian, taking him down. His family told KTLA that Adrian was detained after he intervened, allegedly assaulting an agent who was questioning someone else at the shopping center.
They tried to take the janitor or something. That's what I heard. But I heard that he tried defending the janitor they tried taking.
His friend, who did not want to be identified, says he's a U.S. citizen. Soon after, protesters took to the streets, marching from City Hall to the intersection of Washington and Rosemead, demanding ICE out of Pico Rivera.
This is not the country that we live in. This is not what we represent, and we're desperate. They're pushing us to the edge, and we're trying to keep everybody safe and peaceful.
The Trump administration says its, quote, lawful raids will continue throughout greater LA as it ramps up deportations in blue cities, and that agents are targeting criminals.
That's not true. They're getting everybody. They're only targeting people that are at car washes, that are working, that are selling flowers, that are selling ice creams, etc. It's not just criminals.
Residents in this working class Hispanic community say they will resist the ongoing ICE raids.
We were granted a very special opportunity from our parents, right? My family is immigrants, and stripping other kids from that just feels immorally wrong.
And I just got off the phone with Adrian's mother. She tells me that she has yet to hear from her son at all. She knows that he's in federal custody, but at this hour, she doesn't know where he's being detained.
Now, I watched the video of him being detained in taking away Adrian. All he was doing was standing there yelling at these ICE agents, telling them, this guy has done nothing wrong, and he's trying to defend his fellow Walmart employee. Yeah. And it's just, and it's sad. He was just yelling at him. He wasn't
interfering.
Right. He wasn't doing anything. It wasn't touching the agents or the ICE agents at all. Let's listen to the scuffle. Well, listen.
Okay. Hey, why the fuck you guys touching me? Fuck.
No, he fucking touched me, bro. What the what is he doing?
I'm not doing shit. This is my civil right. I can fucking record you if I want. Hey, these are legal citizens, you fucking pieces of shit. Hey, that's for work, bro. That's for work. Hey, what the don't touch me, dude.
See, the thing is, the ICE agents were pushing and pushing and pushing, and he said, "Don't touch me." Yeah. But anyway, he didn't touch back. But because he was yelling, you could see this ICE agent come back at him and then take him into custody. And that's how this whole thing happens. And you start sweeping up other people in these ICE raids.
And it's so sad to see because he's only 20 years old. He's only 20.
Yes, 20 years old, and he's trying to defend a fellow employee.
Yeah.
Kind of heroic.
Unreal.
And these things are happening all over the country. It's stunning to me that we don't have a choice in all of this. And I don't know if you've seen these polls out there, but people are actually enjoying this. The poll numbers for Trump are going up the way he's handling this. People aren't worried about it. They're not really concerned, which is very concerning to me.
Yes.
When we had the election and they voted Trump in, I thought, yes, the American public really does kind of want to try out a strong man and see how that works out. And I think they're still on board with it.
Yeah.
And
apparently so.
I don't know. Just scary as heck.
It's frightening, yeah.
So anyway, that's going on all over. I mean, there were other examples in the news as well, but I thought that was quite revealing. And he's an American citizen, and now they don't know where he is.
Well, that's that's happening a lot.
And the whole, I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because that would be like my son, and I know they're like this. They would try to defend a friend of theirs, a fellow employee.
Sure,
they would do the same exact thing, and I'm just worried about my kids being swept up in all of this and not hearing back from them and not knowing what happened to them. And that's really starting to bother me an awful lot. And I don't know why the CJs and my mega friend in Milwaukee, why they're not concerned about it, why they don't see the impact of this on society, our civilization in this country. This is what makes us the United States, and we're not united anymore.
And it's gone from the ICE agents targeting the original idea, gang members. We're going after the gang members. They've got tattoos, and they're bad guys, and we're going to and they're bringing fentanyl in and all this. But now it's gone to hotel workers, Walmart workers. Yeah. I mean, come on, it's progressed quite a bit from the original mission, apparently.
Well, it really has. Now, another topic we've talked about on the show is AI. How much can you really trust it? I don't trust it anymore. I was very much on board with AI. Yeah. I thought, what a great new thing. I mean, it'll open up a whole new area of thinking and work, but it is not that. Because this story came across, get this, Musk's own AI creation, Grok, has been accused by conservatives of favoring liberals in its responses. Now, they're accusing an AI-generated thing of being liberal or indoctrinated by the liberal media somehow, somewhere along the way, because, Grok has to use what's out there to get its information.
To think.
So
I'm sorry, what does Grok even mean? Like, what is
Grok?
I can't remember. There is a reference to that.
Yeah.
But the question was asked in a neutral way. Grok, since 2016, has the left or the right been more violent? And the answer that Grok gave was, since 2016, data suggests right-wing political violence has been more frequent and deadly, with incidents like the January 6th Capitol riot and mass shootings, El Paso 2019, causing significant fatalities. That's what Grok had as an answer. And the response by the creator of Grok, Elon, this is what he said. Major fail, as this is objectively false. Grok is parroting legacy media. It's supposed to, that's where it's getting its information, from the media, and legacy media isn't like one or two media companies. It's everything that's out there covering the media, covering what the news is saying. And Grok is using that information, and that's a problem. In fact, Elon says this is something he's going to fix. Now, that alone scares the daylights out of me, because that immediately discredits anything AI is creating for us out there as a way of finding information.
Yeah.
Right? Because if he can fix the information,
there's something
then
wrong.
What's the point of AI? What are we doing here?
Elon thinks he knows best. What's best for everybody.
Oh, man.
Hey?
Yeah, this is, anyway, he's promising now to fix Grok. God.
Oh, we can rest easy now.
I mean, what is he objecting to? Vance Bolter being accused of, assassinating political figures?
I mean, I don't know.
Obviously, that wasn't a Democrat.
Right.
And all of the other examples that Grok had come up with, police reports, eyewitness news, the whole thing. That's what AI is supposed to be doing, accumulating this data and give you an answer. Well, but now Elon says he's going to fix that.
We'll see what AI's response is. I mean, AI pushes back now on things.
I feel like Elon says that a lot, too. I feel like that's just a common thing that Elon says.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Now, there's good news too, and we'll get to Jim Santelle's coming in here.
That's right.
Just a few moments, and we'll be talking about the latest court decisions that are out there. But one of the big decisions we'll be talking about is the order by a judge to start resuming passports for transgender Americans.
Okay.
Who sign it with an X. They cannot block that from happening now, at least momentarily.
That's coming
we'll
up.
Ask them about that.
All right. We're also going to be checking in with Brittany Merlot. We'll get the latest on this muggy weather and a whole lot more. And this portion of John and Gordy in the Morning brought to you by our friends at Madison Hearing Aid Center. Jim and Sarah do a terrific job there. MadisonHearingAidCenter.com. They're at 4706 Cottage Grove Road in Madison, and they help people change their lives. Their goal is not just selling hearing aids, it's improving the quality of life through better hearing. Madison Hearing Aid Center, fast and flexible appointments. They're family-owned. Convenience over complexity. And again, they're at 4706 Cottage Grove Road, doing a terrific job. MadisonHearingAidCenter.com.
In just a moment, we'll get to the Hegseth hearings.
Oh, boy. Yeah, this was really something.
Yeah.
And Brittany Merlot right around the corner with the weather on John and Gordy in the Morning.
Brittany wasn't here for a little bit, but she just left StreamYard.
We were going to do interplanetary weather.
We should.
Have that ready to go. There she is.
Hey.
All right.
Hey, Brittany.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
Do we have a planet for interplanetary weather or anything?
Did we?
Yeah, let's talk about the sun because it's summer tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Summer begins.
Yeah. Oh, is it really?
We have to pull out some summer songs.
We could do that.
Make a list.
Yeah.
After the show.
20 seconds.
Okay.
Hey everybody, Rocker here. Join me for the Max Inc. preview every Friday morning with John and Gordy right here on WMDX. And now they're up for Best Radio Team on Madison Magazine's Best of Madison poll. Let me just say, these guys rock, so they're getting my vote, and I hope you get out your vote too. They may be old, but they still know how to rock.
Thank you, Rocker.
Please vote for us. Please.
You'll be here tomorrow. If you want to find out how to vote, you can go to WMDXradio.com.
I don't want to sound desperate or anything, but
you are sounding desperate.
Please vote for us.
You can only vote once in this poll, and you have 11 days left.
And we tried to game it, but we couldn't find a way to do that.
That's right.
All right. Well, anyway,
it's 23 past. Look at the sun coming through the
Isn't that
windows
amazing?
Here.
That just happened. You know why?
Why?
Because we have Brittany Merlot.
Oh, she's our ray of sunshine every morning.
A ray of sunshine.
Good morning, Brittany. How are you?
Thank you, guys. I'm pretty good. How are you?
Doing okay.
Good.
Yeah, it's still kind of muggy out.
Yeah.
That dew point's still in the low 60s, I think. Right?
Yeah, about 62 degrees. So it's
tracking
up there.
that. Got an eye on it, John?
I'm watching it.
We've got a bunch of rain that moved through yesterday, and last night that kind of tapered off and moved out. But yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful looking anyway. Right now.
After yesterday, right? But you had flash flood warnings down south in Janesville area too. I know that was not you guys, but close enough. I'm glad you missed it.
That's close. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're looking at a lot of sunshine today, honestly. Nice and warm, mid 80s. Dew points aren't too bad, considering what we have coming ahead. Comparatively, it's more comfortable today. So we've got this front still draped over the state. The darn thing, it's taken its time. So it's still going to send a few more showers and storms possible. But I think a lot of those are going to stay north, probably east and away from you. So I really think you're good to go until tomorrow morning. That's when you can't escape the rain. More showers, more storms. Again, I think it's going to be gone by the afternoon. So we could see some sunshine by the end of the day tomorrow. Winds start to get breezy out of the south. And that's where all that heat and humidity starts to surge in. And I don't know about you, but I'm going either in the water or staying inside in the AC because these temperatures are going to hit about 93 degrees is what I'm thinking. Both Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the dew points in the mid 70s, potentially upper 70s, which is gross.
I know. Yeah. It's time to go to the water parks. That's what I'm thinking, you know.
Well, that's it.
Find the sprinklers, the water toys, the squirt guns, anything.
Everything and anything.
Well, yeah, so get used to the heat.
And you know why? Because summer is coming up.
That's right.
Yep.
Summer begins tomorrow, right?
It does. It's the summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year. We've got tomorrow and a little bit of Saturday, and then the days start to slowly get shorter. Crazy to think about.
Okay, now sunset is at 8:40 tonight.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll have to watch that. It may go up to 8:41. or 2.
You know, I'm
It'll be
wondering
just
why.
seconds longer, unfortunately. I know.
Yeah.
It's about 15 hours and 22 minutes and 19 seconds of daylight, if you're curious. To be
Wow.
exact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right off the top of your head.
Well,
Bam.
Brittany, you know,
You are good.
It's going to be really, really hot, and you know, summer is beginning, and you know, it just starts me to wondering. You know, we haven't talked about interplanetary weather in a long time. Do you have something ready for interplanetary weather?
Interplanetary weather. You bet. Of course I do.
Do ya?
Let's talk about the sun.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
So
Sure.
I
What
had
about the sun?
no idea that the sun was I knew it was really, really hot, but I didn't know how hot it was at the core. You guys have any guesses?
I have no idea. I mean, how do they measure that, first of all? And
Good
you
question.
know,
Exactly.
But I'm going to say it's more than 10,000 degrees. I don't know.
Oh, you
It's
know
a
what
guess.
though? You were on the dot to the surface temperature of the sun. 10,000
Oh.
degrees is what the surface of the sun is, but down at the core, woo,
Good one, Gordy.
27 million degrees Fahrenheit. 27
What?
million degrees Fahrenheit.
7 million.
Cools off quite a bit on the surface.
But it's a dry
Yes.
heat, right?
It's a dry
It's a molten heat.
dry heat.
Yeah.
It
So,
is.
wow, that's just amazing.
Sweating
Thank
thinking
you.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's outrageous.
No.
Ooh.
Well, thank you for that interplanetary weather. We appreciate that, Brittany. Yeah.
Welcome. Those are always fun. You guys
Yeah,
stay
who
cool
knows?
as we go this weekend.
There we go. Okay. To close the book on that. Okay. Hey, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Find out about the weekend some more. Okay.
Sounds good. You too.
All right. Take
That's
care.
Brittany Merlot, our WMDX meteorologist. Okay. And this portion of John and Gordy in the Morning brought to you by Verlo Mattress. You can wake up and sleep better on a Verlo mattress. A lot has changed since 1958. Some things remain constant throughout Verlo's history. They're direct-to-consumer and providing superior products at unbeatable prices. Verlo Mattress, 2 locations in Madison, East Side and West Side. Go to verlo.com for more information. Not a lot of time here.
No, there's not enough time for fitting our story about Hegseth.
Oh.
You know, he had some amazing comments to the people interviewing him.
Well, maybe we can talk to Jim Santelle about that a little bit. You know?
maybe,
There's
but,
some legality involved in some of that.
He doesn't know what's going on. He's a former host on Fox News. Come
Talking
on.
about Hegseth now.
Yeah,
Jim
Pete
Santelle,
Hegseth.
he knows
this is
what's
just
happening.
ridiculous. This guy is nuts. And, you know, it doesn't seem like
really-
he cares. He's just playing a game with the Senate.
He's very combative. You know, he doesn't want to answer
That's
anything.
yeah.
That's the thing. He's not going to answer
He's trying to be
anything.
clever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's
and
not
it's not
working.
coming across well. In fact, it's belligerent.
Mm-hmm.
And these senators weren't real happy with a lot of his responses.
No, they weren't. Yeah. And that's going to continue. Is he done with his testimony,
I
or
don't
is
know.
he going to be back?
I don't know. We should be done. We don't want to hear
Should
any
be
more
done with
from
him.
him. He has nothing to add.
Completely. Yes.
Nothing to add.
All right. We've
Okay,
got,
Jim Santelle coming up with a lot of legal things to talk about.
And Pam Yaki, the fabulous farm babe, with the Midwest Food and Farm Report next. And then we'll be back with Jim Santelle on John and Gordy in the Morning.
Hey, Jim.
Hello, Jim.
Hey, John, Gordy, how are you? Hey, Dom.
Good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I haven't checked emails. I don't know. Did you send us something?
I did just an hour or so ago. Just and obviously
I'm
anything
looking
to
at
talk
it.
about the big Supreme Court case yesterday on transgender issues.
Yeah,
right.
Not a real surprise, but it's really sending shockwaves.
Actually, I was surprised by it. I
Yeah,
know it's
yeah.
a medical decision. This is a
It-
medical
it is.
decision.
Yeah, it
And
has.
now the courts are there.
Yeah, it really has shades of, one of the criticisms way back in 1973 when Dom was just a baby, of course. Oops, no, I got my math wrong, right? We were just babies. That's it.
Yeah,
we were
right.
just babies, right? That decision was basically also a medical decision about how long a fetus is viable outside of the womb. And, it just was, and we got a shades of that again. Basically, he's saying, listen, this is so messed up out there. We don't know what the medical science is about the impact of transgender healthcare. We're going to leave that to the legislature. That's their decision, and we're backing out of it. And you got Sonia Sotomayor and the others who are saying, but wait, there are people whose lives are quite literally on the line here, and she goes in the opposite direction as to. So it's 6-3. You're right. It's not entirely surprising. It's still sort of stunning to see it, especially since kind of the entire arc of LGBT issues recently has been in favor of expanding opportunities and rights. And Pride Month is usually the time the Supreme Court issues those affirming decisions. Here we've got one that goes in the opposite. And the big issue, of course, is what is the impact down the road of other. We've got the transgender ban in the military. That's still out there, and bathrooms and sports and all kinds of things. Does this have its collateral impact if, in fact, you can single out the transgender community and say, no, that's a class we will not at least support in terms of civil rights. So it's got the big issue is what comes next. What comes next?
I have something here about resuming issuing passports.
Yes, yeah.
And I know the Supreme Court in the state made a huge decision, proving once again the conservative Supreme Court was way off, way wrong, and let these things slip through. And this is one of the things that didn't slip through because of Josh Call pressing this issue. So I think this is a great decision, by the way. So let's get to that as well. Okay, we got a lot of stuff. Just unbelievable amounts of stuff.
I've been saying recently on the air, it's a lot. I just at the end of your discussion, I just say, we may understand all this. It's a lot.
It is. It is.
It's a lot. Maggie has now taken up talking that way too. Well, Jim, we don't understand what you said, but it's a lot.
Sometimes I have a hard time understanding Maggie. You're clear, but Maggie's, is just, she's a font of information. Let me see here. American Bar Association sued the federal government to halt Trump's unprecedented and uniquely dangerous attempt to intimidate law firms. Reagan-appointed judge blocked Trump from cutting funding for health research on racial minorities and LGBTQ people, accusing the president of committing appalling and discrimination. Let's see, several prominent lawyers. I'm just reading the docket.
Right. Any one of which in a normal day in America would be headline news. And now it's just, what else you got on your list, right?
It's a lot.
That's it.
That's
exactly it. Yeah. Well, we're talking about, all these people being swept off the streets, just regular, normal, everyday American citizens being taken along with everybody else, being accused of, pushing a ICE agent when you don't even know who the hell they are,
Right.
All right, turning mics off.
All right.
WMDX 92.7, John and Gordy in the morning.
We are rocking.
We are rocking now. Yeah.
Sunny skies. It is 7:35. Highs in the low 80s today. Get used to staying in the air conditioning. It's going to get even hotter the next few days.
That's right.
And now Jim Santelle joins us, attorney at law. Good morning, Jim. Thanks for being with us.
Gentlemen, always good to be with you on a Thursday morning. as we often say, lots of things going on. It's a lot to consume, a lot to digest.
It's a lot.
Where do we begin to keep it all straight? All right.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the big decision on transgender treatment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Sure. So this is pending, obviously, in this term of the United States Supreme Court, an oral argument way back in December when the Biden administration, remember Joe Biden, he used to be our president at the time, he was advocating that the Supreme Court overturn, reverse, and reject the position of Tennessee and about 25 other states out there that have limited the legality of medical people and healthcare providers providing transgender healthcare to youths, people under age of 18 who are going through the transgender process. That includes beta blockers and other hormone treatments. The Supreme Court has said that, yes, indeed, states can do that. They can issue legislation that prohibits medical providers in particular states from doing that. And again, about half the states in the union have some variations on that. And so it's not just with respect to Tennessee, but throughout the country that this has big impact. And of course, the issue is not only the effect upon transgender youth, but as we were chatting offline, what is the consequence of this in many other areas? We know the Supreme Court has, for example, recently permitted the president to go ahead and get rid of transgender service members in the military, at least on a temporary basis. We've got issues about sports, and yes, bathroom issues continue to not plague our nation, but they seem to be a focus of a certain component of the population. So the concern is not only about the argument here and the position, but also what the impact of this. For what it's worth, John Roberts says, you know what? Because this is an evolving field, he talks about the safety, the efficacy, and the propriety of medical treatments being unresolved on the face of the planet, invokes some English studies and things in Great Britain. He says because of that, it's the people, it's the representatives and legislatures. They should make those decisions. Courts should not. Sonia Sotomayor, needless to say, goes in the opposite direction. And she says, no, you need to embrace this as an equal protection issue. And that's her position.
Well, it's such a partisan issue. I mean, all the way through these laws that they put in place in all these states, it refers to sex in every line. And the court said that it didn't have anything to do with sex.
Right. It had
and that was their decision.
Yes, yeah. It has to do, with distinctions other than sex. It is the kind of argument that, once again, maybe only lawyers and people who play around with these kinds of things can fully appreciate. Again, Sonia Sotomayor takes that apart, and she gives you a great number of examples. She actually identifies a number of youth, principally by their initials, not their full names, and says this is entirely about sex. It has to do with, obviously, gender dysmorphia and how you feel about your own body. It is completely about that. And she accuses the majority of saying you're hiding behind this linguistic categorization. Saying that there's no equal protection issue here. Of course there is, she says. And also treating males somewhat differently than females. Lots of arguments about the nature of the equal protection that's not being afforded here. Treating, she says, similarly situated people differently, and dismisses what John Roberts and the majority say about that.
I think a lot of the comments from the conservatives on the court made it very clear that this was a purely political decision. I'm just looking at an article on this, and Justice Clarence Thomas, for example, insisted medical experts, get this, unbelievable, have surreptitiously compromised their medical recommendations to achieve political ends. Where the hell did he get that from? I mean, what kind of legal decision is this based on? That's right out of the clear blue. And then Amy Coney Barrett raised concerns about boys and girls sports teams. Sure. This had nothing to do with the case at all. Right. And they're using all of these political arguments, these political points, to make a decision that affects all of these states and all of these children and the families that are trying to help their own children.
Right. And it is regrettably a part of the language of the Supreme Court these days that we do invoke from time to time these these push button and dog whistle kinds of issues to say, you know what, this is about that. This is not about that. This is healthcare. This is about the equal protection argument, 14th Amendment. And as Sonia Sotomayor so very compellingly says in, again, an extensive dissent, she says this is about young people and the families and the people who love them and decisions being made at those levels. And sort of indicates, my words, not hers, how dare you turn this into something other than that issue? And lots to read, 118 pages. I know all your listeners have already consumed all of that. I know Dom isn't going through it for a second time with his highlighter and doing an index on it. But it's, again, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes, it's a lot.
Well, here's what Sonia Sotomayor said. She said the court abandons transgender children and their families to political whims. I think that is the bottom line. That's telling it like it is.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And Jim, again, she's joined by, obviously, we have to note, Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Kagan writes something separately as well, but they're very strong in opposition to this. Sometimes, as we know in history, the dissents become eventually the majority opinions, but obviously not in this time, not in this era. And we wait for the next shoe to drop on these kinds of important issues.
Talking with Jim Santelle, host of Amicus, every Saturday on the Civic Media Radio Network. Jim, what other court cases are pending with the Supreme Court this term before they adjourn?
Sure. We've got just some, by my count, somewhere in the teens. So lots of cases yet to go out of 65 altogether. This is a big one. One of the other ones may be coming out this Friday, maybe next Thursday. Those are the days in which the Supreme Court has once again said we will probably issue opinions on those. And then we're coming right up against, of course, the 4th of July holiday, which is a very informal deadline for getting all this done. But lots of cases, including as we have talked recently on this very broadcast, that thing called birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment, the attempt by the president to carve out, again, a subclass of people who we thought were citizens up until now. And the issue there, not so much about the 14th Amendment, but whether or not judges, an individual federal judge, has this right to enter an injunction, a temporary restraining order that applies nationwide, the universal injunction issue. We may not get a decision on 14th Amendment. We may get a decision on whether or not judges can do those kinds of things. A big deal at a time when lots of judges are doing just that, including in the passport area with LGBT travelers, many things out there. So that's a big one. Other issues, obviously, of equal importance. Don't want to rank them, but issues related to storybooks that children should be permitted to or not permitted to see in the public schools that have LGBT issues. Some things related to internet access for adult sites. All kinds of things that the Supreme Court is wrestling with these days.
Yeah. Well, they're bringing all this stuff up because they've got the Supreme Court in their hands. So certainly they're going to get some of the decisions that go their way, just like the transgender youth treatment case. But let's get into what happened here in our own Supreme Court, making a great decision this time in favor of Josh Kaul, or basically any AG at this point, making decisions in lawsuits. Summarize that case for us.
Sure. So what's going on here? It goes way back to 2018. Who said that justice is speedy, right, in the state courts or the federal courts? What happens? You recall this, and again, Dom does well as I continue to invoke our chronological ages here. Way back then, what happened was Scott Walker, in the wake of the election of Tony Evers and Josh Kaul, the legislature passes legislation in the state that basically says if the executive wants to settle civil cases, these are civil matters, not criminal cases, before you do that, before you settle any claim against the state, you got to come basically to the Joint Finance Committee, back over to the legislature and get our approval on that. It's been up and down in the courts. 2020, the Supreme Court rejected a challenge, said Josh Kaul go back to the lower courts. Eventually, interestingly, there was a Dane County Circuit Court judge, her name was and still is Susan Crawford, who ruled in 2022 that this is unconstitutional. You can't limit the executive branch's prerogative in this area. Finally gets back to the Supreme Court. And then again, as you've indicated just a couple of days ago, in a unanimous decision We should all be celebrating that once our justices are in agreement, 7-0. It does happen at the federal level, by the way. Supreme Court unanimously says no, rating from the pen of Brian Hagedorn. He says that this is a constitutional issue. You can't give the power to control litigation to the legislature. That's within the purview of the executive and the attorney general in particular. That's the reason why this is so very important.
Yeah, they originally, of course, let this thing slip through, and now unanimously, they at least focused on one issue, and that is the settlement issue, throwing it to the legislature, which was crazy all by itself. We're not even dealing with, at this point, I don't think there's any cases or lawsuits pending in regards to the power that they took away from the governor.
Right.
I think that's done. That's a done deal on that. But this was in the lame duck session of the legislature. They pushed this thing through. Other states did that, by the way, but the governors didn't sign off on it. Right. Scott Walker did.
Right.
And this is what has resulted from it.
To limit his successor. And as a practical matter, again, that's the big issue. And it is a reason, frankly, for Democrats, Republicans to be solid. Because at some point, again, the governor's mansion changes hands. Again, you don't want to limit the capacity of the executive branch. There are all kinds of ethical reasons. You can even imagine the specter. I've got a lawsuit that Dom and I, again, I'm invoking his name many times here this morning. We are in litigation, and he is trying to settle the case. And I say, okay, we've got a resolution for this. We're talking about litigation strategy, about dollars, things in the context of our own clients. And then we've got to go to the legislature and air all of this and have a legislature vote, or at least a committee vote on whether or not we think this settlement makes sense, disclosing in that setting all things we've talked about already, all kinds of issues that make this very impractical. Thank goodness in Wisconsin, we're no longer doing it that way. Back to normal.
Wow. Okay.
Do you know if anybody is challenging the issue of DEI being illegal? Is there any kind of case floating out there? Because I know, the president has declared it illegal, that people can't do it, and he's preventing private interests from actually carrying out DEI. Right. Is there?
Yeah. There are actually many of them, but they go into specific areas. For example, programs inside federal agencies that have been shut down, and people coming forward and challenging those on the basis that they're materially affecting the capacity of the agency to do its work. They're impacting things like rights of people and permutations all across the board as he continues to perpetuate that unfounded notion that somehow this is bad for America.
All right, Jim, we're going to come back with more, so hang in there.
Stay with us. Coming right back.
Jim here. All right, Jim. I don't know. Should we talk about the idea that the president has made it very clear that these occupations in cities is for political purposes, really, not about sweeping up immigrants. They want to occupy and save these cities from socialism. And they're blue cities and they're sanctuary cities, and it seems to me that is all illegal.
Right. It should be, and it's brought to a head by what's going on in his attempt to federalize the California National Guard. I mean, that's not quite what you're talking about, but it's that notion that because we disagree with you politically in the way that you've elected your mayor, what you're doing in Chicago or San Francisco, other places, I'm going to invoke my law enforcement powers and even my military powers to shut you down. That is a mixing that's very dangerous. Interestingly, the news on that, if you wanted to chat about it a little bit, is the judge's order stopping him from federalizing the California National Guard, subject of debate before the Ninth Circuit yesterday. And they shockingly seem to indicate that maybe the president has that power and that courts should not be involved in intruding into his capacity, which is a very dangerous and interesting thing, not at all resolved yet, but sometime soon the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is going to weigh in on whether the lower court judge was right in stopping him from doing that. That was an argument just yesterday, and it's more than a bit scary.
All right, let's get into that.
Yeah,
let's do that one.
Okay.
Stephanie Miller here. Listen up, my pals John and Gordy are up for Best Radio Team in Madison Magazine's Best of Madison poll. I know, I was surprised too. Just kidding, please vote for them because they lead into my show, and when they do well, it helps me out too. Me. Love you, John and Gordy.
Love you too, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Stephanie Miller Show next on the Civic Media Radio Network. John and Gordy back with attorney Jim Santelle from Amicus, a law review. This portion of the show brought to you by Madison Hearing Aid Center. They offer passion over profit, convenience over complexity. They're helping people change their lives. Their number one goal isn't just selling hearing aids, it's improving the quality of life through better hearing. It's Madison Hearing Aid Center, 4706 Cottage Grove Road in Madison. Go to their excellent website, madisonhearingaidcenter.com.
We were talking during the commercial break about nationalizing the National Guard or the Marines,
sending in the crews.
sending everything in, and that is become a huge issue now. And you mentioned something about that. It's something, there was a hearing yesterday about it, right?
Yes, exactly. We talked about it on this very broadcast last week. A federal judge named Breyer, Breyer, that's not the former Supreme Court justice, but Charles Breyer. He's a district court judge in San Francisco. And he looked at all this. He had a hearing and he said, you know what? The basis upon which any president can federalize the California or any National Guard is you got to make a finding of a rebellion. People trying to overthrow the government. You've got to have an invasion, and talks all about how this is just not that. This is people protesting. And yes, some of it may have gotten not violent with a capital V, but some rocks thrown and things like that. But that's not a rebellion trying to overthrow the government. So he basically says, Donald Trump, you can't do this. You're without constitutional and statutory authority. It is appealed right away, of course, by Donald Trump through your Department of Justice and the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is, again, the court above Judge Breyer, again, encompassing California and Washington and Oregon and Alaska, Hawaii, a huge a portion of the country, basically said, we're going to have a hearing on this to determine whether or not the lower court's order should stand. They did that just yesterday, about an hour-long hearing or so, and it's just an opportunity, again, to review what the lower court has done. Hard to say. We don't predict a whole lot from what happens in oral arguments, but it appeared that at least, again, this is just a 3-judge panel, and at least some of the judges were at least sympathetic to the president's view that he is the commander-in-chief. He's got to be concerned for the entire country, and for that reason, he's got the authority to do this. And so we'll see what the Ninth Circuit does. A couple of options that may come out of that if indeed the Ninth Circuit goes in the opposite direction. One is what's called an en banc proceeding. Could have all the judges of the Ninth Circuit, 20 some of them, getting together to review that. Probably in that setting, they would go with Judge Breyer. Ultimately, where could this go once again? our friends at the Supreme Court. This could end up there, as do many of these cases. But it's topical right now. It is hot right now, not only because of the legal issues, because it relates to the president's capacity, as we were talking again, to bring what are basically political differences. I don't like the political and partisan views of a mayor in a particular city. And because of that, I'm going to do something either to restrict their funding, in this case, even to shut down the legitimate public debates that are going on in those cities. That's a different kind of thing that the president has never done before in American history.
Well, it's not an insurrection. It's not a rebellion.
No.
Again, these are protests. So how can the Ninth Circuit even come to any kind of conclusion that it would be okay for the president to nationalize the military like this?
That's the head scratcher. When you read Judge Breyer's opinion, it is so good. There was some great language in there, too. I read it during the course of the events, the community events of last Saturday, about how, it's troubling that the president would even say that somehow public debate, protest, the opportunity to exercise your First Amendment rights, that somehow that's a rebellion, Mr. President, that's insurrection. So it is difficult to believe that any judges, whatever their political background may be, would go in that direction. We'll see if things have happened like that in the past, but we're not done with this issue by a far, far stretch.
Now, you said it's a 3-judge panel. They could go to the full circuit, right?
Yes, it could. If, again, likely the governor, he is the plaintiff in this case. If there is an unfavorable decision to California, he could say, I want everybody to decide this, and they may well grant that request. Especially in the Ninth Circuit, if you get an opinion from 2 or 3 of these judges, that's different from what probably the majority of the Ninth Circuit judges would do. Likely that this may be heard by all of them, and that could further delay all this, of course. But this is not the end in the federal courts by any means. And again, maybe one day, no time soon, but this could get up to the Supreme Court as well.
But the crazy part is that don't they know the repercussions on granting something like this? I mean, every city can be occupied at that point. Everybody could be watching the military, marching through their towns.
Yeah. That's the concern that your questions just raised. Okay, the president wakes up one morning and says, I don't like what I'm seeing. Those protests along the highways and in the public ways, and there is rebellion going on, and I'll make that finding, as the president did. And for that reason, the tanks then can roll in and we can do something again. The National Guards have been federalized a couple of times. It's always been to advance civil rights, right? It's to ensure that again, President Eisenhower sent in the National Guard to ensure that segregation, Brown versus Board of Education 2, is followed way back in the 1950s. We do that to enforce the rights of people, not to trample on them and restrict them. That's why this is so very different today.
Boy, it's just absolutely crazy. And it just makes us all really nervous and on edge. And we're already watching the military tramp through our towns or cities, grabbing people off the street. And people are just, worried about their friends, their loved ones, their co-workers. I mean, the chilling effect is just outrageous. Yeah.
And you like to think that the courts would go in that direction also to support rights of people.
Yeah.
Jim, we got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Yes,
next time around. You can listen to Jim's show, Amicus, a Law Review, on the Civic Media Radio Network on Saturdays from 9 to 11 a.m. And tomorrow on the show, we've got Rocker joining us, also Savannah Tomei Olson and Pam Yaki. That's going to do it for this Thursday.
Wow. Busy day today.
Busy, busy, busy. Stephanie Miller's next. So long.
Wait. Uh-oh.
Look out. Here comes the... Oh, no. Look out for the drone.
Gentlemen, take care. We'll see you next week.
In the drone.
All right. Wow.
Thank you, Jim. Crazy times we live in.
It is. Yeah, we didn't actually get into the